So once more, I'm going to go through the assessment sheet, and that is because a lot of you complained that you didn't get audio on the other session. So you all have this sheet, and I have highlighted some particular cells represented by yellow. So this will be the cells where you can impute data in terms of scores for particular students on the far left, as you have here. So we want to use Excel to get the total score, the letter grading, and as well the remark for all the students. And while this is unique, is because we're going to make it automated, meaning that whenever you change any grade or any score for the students in this part that is highlighted in yellow, Excel will automatically recalculate the total score, the letter grading, and the remark for you without you going to impute that manually. For those of you that are serving in primary, secondary schools, you know that you have record sheets. And anytime you make any editing, you have to use Tipex to clean and update the new total score, grade, and remark. But we are in the ICT age, and Excel can do that for you automatically. So to start with, the total score. All right. But in case, as I'm going through this, if you have any concern, kindly use the chat box. All right. This is the chat box. Use the chat box to put any comment you might have. Okay. Because once I start presenting, I might not know if you're getting me or not. Use the chat box for any comments. Thanks. All right. So first of all, I'm going to get the total score. And to get the total score is simple. Just like I used to say, anytime you are working on Excel, the first thing you need to do whenever you want to put in a mathematical formula is to put the equals to sign. So now that I have the equals to sign, summation is the function that I'm going to use to add. And once you press sum, you will see a sum option. So once you have it, press tab on your laptop, and it will open up this bracket and ask you for a range of numbers. So you can click on the first cell for the score and move horizontally towards your right till where you have the last score, which is score 10, after which you just press enter. Once you've done that, the next thing you need to do is to go to the far lower left or far lower right corner of your cell. See when you see that small black arrow. Okay, hold on, let me turn this to white so that you can see it clearly. So now it is white. So you go to the far lower right corner of your cell till you have the small black arrow, then you drag down. You drag down till the last input you have, then you release. Then you will see that automatically all the scores have been populated. So I will highlight the column and I will centralize so that this will come to the center. So by doing this, we've gotten the total score, which is simple and straightforward. Everybody should be able to do that. Following the total score is what we call the letter gradient, which is what we're going to be looking at now. Okay. For we to be able to calculate the letter gradient, we are going to use the if function. If function. Some of you are already familiar with the if function because you've used it for some of the classworks in the Excel manual. So the if function is a logical function. So for us to put in the if function, first thing you do as usual is to put the equals to sign. Please mute your microphones. Somebody has unmuted the mic. Ugo, mute your mic. Thank you. So, first thing we need to do is to put the equals to sign. When we're done with the equals to sign, you now type if, and you can see that you have the if function. Then you use the tab on your laptop to populate. Then it will show you three things. It will show you a logical test. It will show you the value, if your logical test is true, the value that the if function should give, and the value it should give if it is false. All right. So before I go further with the if function, I like using the example of childbirth. And just like if you ask somebody that you have a baby and you're happy and you say, okay, is it a boy? And they said no. Logically, you should know that the baby is a girl, isn't it? So the same thing too, that is the same kind of logic that we are bringing into Excel. So that once you put a logic here, which you will be the one to define, you can tell Excel if this logic is correct, give a value that will be true. And if the logic is wrong, give a value that will be false. So for example, I can say for my logic now, I'll click into this cell, which is my total score. And I'll say if my total score is greater than 70, this is my logic test. For me to get to the value, I'll put a comma. And you can see now that it has moved to value if true. So if my logic test is greater than 70, if it is true, return A. So I'll put inverted comma A. That is if true. Then I want to move to the last one, which is if false. Then I still use a comma. And you can see after putting a comma, it has moved to value if false. If it is false, return 0. Inverted comma, and I close the bracket and press enter. So now you will see, because my total score is less than 70, it returns 0. So if I hold the lower right corner of the cell and I drag down, you will see what will happen. So you can see now that all the cells that have value greater than 70 has been returned to A, and all the cell value that has lesser than 70 is taking a 0. So this is straightforward, and that is how you use the if function. But the question is, in this particular case, we have more than 2 logical tests to impute. We have for A, B, C, and F. So what will be our response? Now we are going to use the function which is multiple if functions, all right? And we call it the nested if. Nested if. And I ask, what is a nest? And I still put it in the chat. So who can tell me what is a nest? According to your layman language. So who can help with that? In your own understanding. So I'm going to leave this question here for the next 30 seconds and see if we have anybody to answer it. I'm waiting. So I don't have any comments, and I'll have to continue at this point. So next, when we talk about next, it just means you having an intertwine of one string or one function in another. Okay, I have a comment. Like a house. Yes, I guess you mean bed house, right? Very good. So that means you're following. So the same thing too. Here we'll be having a next, like an if function to enter another if function, to enter another if function till when we get to F. So the first if function will take the logic for A and B. The second if function will take the logic for B and C, while the last if function will take the logic for C and F. So if I come back to my letter grading and I delete what I have here initially, and I take that down, so now this is clear. So I can now start working with the new formula. So first thing I need to do, if I want to put the if function, is to put the equals to sign. Then I put the first if. Then I press tab on my laptop. So it's asking me for the logical test. So my logical test will be my total score. And now we have A to be what? 70 and above. So I will say if my total score is greater than 69. Why am I using 69? Because if I say it's greater than 70, then what if you have a borderline student that scores 70? But if I say 69, so it's going to capture a student that scores 70 on the dot. All right? So if my M2 is greater than 69, that is my logical test, comma, then I'll put inverted comma, give me A, or return A. All right, that is if true. Then if false, instead of putting a value, I'll put another if function. Then I'll press tab on my laptop. Then I'll do the logical test again. So it's asking me for my logical test. I go to where I have my total score. All right, and I put if M2, which is this, the cell where I have the total score, is greater than 59. So now I'm using 59 also because if you see, B is represented by 60 to 69. So I have to pick a number that is above just before you get to 60, so that if you have a borderline of 60, it can be covered. So if M2 is greater than 59, then comma, if true, inverted comma, return B. All right. Then you put a comma to move to if false. Then if false, what are we going to do? Then we add the last if function. Then I use the tab one more time. Then my logical test will be if M2, which is where you have the total score, is greater than, so now what will it be? You guessed right. Now we have for C. So if M2 is greater than what? 49. Then comma, return C. All right, comma. Otherwise, because now after C we have F, which is the last one. So now we have is either C or F, isn't it? So we can now put F here because we don't have any other logic function after F. Then we'll close the brackets. How many brackets do I have? So I have 1 bracket, 2 brackets, 3 brackets. So that's 3, closure, 1, 2, 3. All right, and I press enter. So now you see that for 55, I have C, which is concurrent to my key letter grading here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the lower right corner till I see the small arrow, then I drag down. And you can see that all the students have been populated with the different grades. You can see 63B, you can see 82A, and all that. So it is quite simple. All right. So now let us test our Excel sheet. So this student that have 63, what if we have a reduction in the score? Let's say from 10, I reduce it to 1. Then watch what will happen here when I press enter. So you can see the grade has changed to 54C. What if I reduce it further from this 10 again, I change it to 1? You can see 45F. So we have automated the letter grading. All right. So lastly, we'll go for the remark. The remark is simple. For now, it's either when you have 50 and above, that is a pass. Then when you have below or equals to 49, that is fail. All right. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'll come here and say equals to. Then what am I going to do next? You guess right, if function, if. Then I press tab on my laptop. Then it's showing me logical test. So what is my logical test? I come to M2 and I say if M2 is greater than 49, okay, that is my logical test. I put comma, then value if true. Inside inverted comma, I put pass. All right. Then what if it's not true? To get there, I put a comma, then you have value for first populated. If not true, then it will be fail. Still in inverted comma, and I close the bracket and press enter. So automatically, let me change this to white so that you see it clearly. So you will see that, and I centralize, the first student has a pass because Ayo had 55. So if I come to the lower right corner till I see my small black arrow and I drag down, all the student pass except this one that has fail. So it is as simple as this, okay? And we have just automated this sheet. So take for instance, if I had some score to the score of this guy so that we pimp him up, let's say he has 45, let's make this a 10. Watch what will happen to the total score, letter grading, and the remark once I press enter. So enter. So you can see the total score changed to 54, the grading is C, and the remark is pass. So automatically, I have automated this sheet, right? So you can see that this is very simple and straightforward. So at this point in time, I'm going to take your questions. So if you have any question at this point, please bring your questions in the chat box. But meanwhile, let me stop. Okay. Oh, Kinsley is saying wow. Meanwhile, let me stop recording so that it won't be too big for you to download.